There is a version of history that plays out every Monday night under bright lights and pyro. It is a story of triumph, of superheroes, of a billion-dollar empire built on the American dream. It is the story World Wrestling Entertainment sells to the world. But there is another story, one that doesn't air on the WWE network. One that isn't celebrated in the Hall of Fame. It is a narrative written in redacted court documents, whispered in locker rooms, and buried under millions of dollars in non-disclosure agreements. For 4 decades, Vincent Kennedy McMahon didn't just control the narrative, he was the narrative. He was the grandfather of sports entertainment, the untouchable genius who crushed the territories and monopolized an industry. He convinced the world that he was invincible, but every empire has a foundation. And when you look closely at the bedrock of the WWE, you don't just find concrete. You find cracks, you find silence, and you find the secrets that finally grew too loud to ignore. This isn't the story of a wrestling promoter. This is the autopsy of a culture. To understand the fall, you have to understand the height of the pedestal. In the 1980s, Vince McMahon did the unthinkable. He took a regional carnival attraction and turned it into a global pop culture phenomenon. He ruthlessly aggregated power, destroying the territorial system that had existed for 50 years. He didn't just want to be the best, he wanted to be the only. This expansion required a specific kind of leadership. It required a locker room culture that prioritized loyalty over safety and silence over accountability. The unspoken rule backstage was simple: protect the business at all costs. For years, this philosophy worked. It created billionaires, it created icons. But it also created a bubble where normal societal rules didn't seem to apply. In the world of Titan Towers, the CEO wasn't just a boss. He was a father figure, a judge, and a jury. But absolute power creates absolute blind spots. While the cameras focused on Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin, a pattern was emerging behind the curtain. A pattern of using company funds to make problems disappear. For decades, the roar of the crowd was loud enough to drown out the whispers. Until it wasn't. The first major crack in the armor appeared in the early 1990s. The federal government came for Vince McMahon. The steroid trials of 1994 weren't just about performance-enhancing drugs. They were an attempt to pierce the corporate veil. The government alleged a conspiracy to distribute steroids to talent. McMahon stood trial, facing prison time. He was acquitted, a victory that emboldened him. It reinforced the internal narrative. Vince McMahon beats the odds. Vince McMahon beats the government. But while the media focused on steroids, a much darker cloud was forming. During this same era, allegations regarding the harassment of ring boys' young attendants who set up the wrestling rings began to surface. Names like Tom Cole appeared in the press, detailing uncomfortable realities about the backstage culture and certain individuals in power. The company response was swift, settlements were reached, NDAs were signed, the story was managed. This established the playbook that would be used for the next 30 years. When a scandal threatens the stock price or the public image, you don't fix the root cause. You pay for silence, you purchase the rights to the truth, and you lock it in a vault. Fans moved on, the Attitude Era exploded, bringing in record profits. The darkness of the early 90s was washed away by the blood and beer of the late 90s, but the precedent had been set. The company learned that everything and everyone has a price tag. If the 90s taught WWE they could survive legal threats, 1999 taught them they could survive tragedy. Kansas City, over the edge, Owen Hart falls from the rafters. It is a moment that remains the single most controversial night in the history of the industry. The decision to continue the pay-per-view after a performer had died in the ring is often cited as the ultimate example of the show must go on mentality taken to a sociopathic extreme. The company claimed it was an accident. The family claimed negligence. The lawsuit was settled for $18 million. But the psychological toll on the locker room was incalculable. It reinforced the terrifying idea that the machine stops for no one, not even for death. Then came 2007. The the Chris Benoit double murder-suicide. This was the moment the industry almost died. It forced the WWE to institute the wellness policy. It forced them to address concussions. To the outside world, it looked like the company was evolving, becoming safer, becoming corporate. But insiders suggest a different reality. The cleaning up of the product wasn't a moral awakening. It was a survival tactic. Sponsors were watching. Wall Street was watching. The Wild West days had to end, at least publicly. Yet, while the drug testing became stricter, the culture of personal misconduct at the executive level allegedly remained unchanged. The corporate structure was modernized, but the man at the top was still operating by the rules of the 1980s. He believed he was the exception to the rule. Fast forward to 2022, the world had changed. The #MeToo movement had toppled titans of industry in Hollywood and media. But for a long time, it seemed wrestling was immune. The carny roots of the business seemed to insulate it from high society scrutiny. Then, the Wall Street Journal dropped the story that shattered the shield. It wasn't just about affairs, it was about the money. The report revealed millions of dollars in unrecorded expenses hush money payments made to women to suppress allegations of sexual misconduct and infidelity. These weren't personal payments from a private account. The investigation found that the payments should have been recorded as company expenses because they benefited the company by protecting its image. By failing to disclose them, federal securities laws may have been violated. The board of directors, people handpicked by McMahon, launched an investigation. The numbers were staggering, nearly $20 million in payments over the years. The illusion of the genial grandfather crumbled. The stories that emerged painted a picture of a corporate structure designed to facilitate the predatory impulses of powerful men. John Laurinaitis, the head of talent relations, was implicated alongside McMahon. It became clear that the human resources department wasn't there to protect the employees from the executives. It was there to protect the executives from the employees. Vince McMahon retired. It felt like the end. He tweeted his simple then, now, forever, and walked away. But power is an addiction, and Vince wasn't done. In early 2023, Vince McMahon forced his way back onto the board of directors. He used his majority voting power to seize control, ostensibly to facilitate the sale of the company. He succeeded. He sold the WWE to Endeavor, merging it with the UFC to form TKO Group Holdings. It was the biggest deal in the history of combat sports. He secured a payout of billions. He sat on the new board. He thought he had won again. But the ghosts were not done talking. In January 2024, a new lawsuit was filed by Janelle Grant, a former employee. The graphic nature of the 67-page complaint shocked even the most jaded wrestling journalists. The allegations included sex trafficking, emotional abuse, and sexual assault. The lawsuit didn't just target Vince. It implicated the corporate machinery that allegedly enabled him. It named other executives. It described a culture where human beings were treated as currency to secure talent contracts. This time, there was no coming back. The sponsors revolted. TKO Group Holdings, a publicly traded entity answering to Ari Emanuel, could not tolerate the toxicity. Vince McMahon resigned. His name was scrubbed from the website. His profile was removed from the digital roster. In the latest video game, his character is blurred out or removed entirely. The man who created the modern wrestling industry has been erased from it. Today, the WWE is hotter than ever. Arenas are sold out. The stock price is high. Under the creative direction of Paul Levesque, the on-screen product has entered a new renaissance. But the shadow remains. The federal investigation is ongoing. The lawsuits are proceeding. We likely haven't heard the last of the allegations. The exit of Vince McMahon proves one undeniable fact. No one is bigger than the business, not even the man who built it. For 40 years, we were told that Vince McMahon was a genius who turned a regional sideshow into a global empire. And he was, but now, we know the cost of that empire. We know what was traded in the dark to keep the lights on. The ring is clear, the bell has rung, but the verdict? The verdict is still being written,